Hello and welcome to Rain Francis Art. My name is Rain. Today in this video I'm going to show you how I painted this giraffe with watercolors. Let's begin. These are the supplies that I'm using for my giraffe today. I've got my watercolor paper. It's Strathmore watercolor paper. It's the 300 series. It is 9 by 12 inches and 140 pound. I've got it portrait style. And I have my stencil here, and I'm going to leave a link in the description below where you can download and print it if you like. And I've taped my canvas down with masking tape. For brushes, I've got 3 brushes. I have a number 4 round, a number 4 liner, and I have a large round, I don't know, I think it's a 10 or 11. I don't know anymore because it's all rubbed off, so I'm not sure. So I'll put these aside until I'm ready to use them. I've got some water, I've got some paper towel. I have my pan paints here. And I think I'm going to stick to the yellows, oranges, and reds. I might go into the purples. We'll see. Probably, but we'll see. And what else have I done? Oh, I did this. I did this fun little thing this morning. I cut out a piece of paper towel or pieces of paper towel that would fit over my giraffe when it comes time for me to put in the background and the splatter. I like this. I'm going to start with the background. And to transfer my stencil onto my canvas, I have this black graphite transfer paper. And if you don't have black graphite transfer paper, I have a video that I will link for you in the cards and in the description of other ways that you can transfer your stencil onto your canvas or onto your drawing page. Now this is just a little short, but that's okay. So I've got just a pencil, and I'm going to transfer everything over to my canvas, okay? Let me put my glasses on, and I will transfer this. Now I just want to make sure I'll do the ear first. I just want to make sure that I have it the right direction. Yes, I do. Okay. Because one time, and I've mentioned this before in other videos, I had a very complicated stencil that I was doing. And when I finished, it took me so long. I was like, oh, I'm done. I took everything off and there was nothing on my canvas because I had the graphite transfer paper pointed the wrong way. So always double check. I find that this is the easiest way to transfer your stencil. I'm not somebody who likes to draw directly on the canvas because I'm always worried that I'm going to be erasing too much and I will ruin my paper by erasing too much. Because I do that a lot. I draw and then I erase and I draw and I erase. Okay. I like doing simple stencils. I'm just going to finish it off because I ran out of paper here. I ran out of stencil, I should say. There we go. I think I got it. Yes, I did. Okay. So I'm going to take the stencil off. There we go. And what I normally do is I just take a regular eraser, and I just noticed there's pet hair underneath my masking tape. There's pet hair everywhere in my house. I usually take just a rubber eraser and I very lightly erase my graphite. That's just my preference. I erase it, but I want to be able to still see it. So as I'm erasing, it may not be obvious to you that it's there, but I will be able to see it. And what I'll do is I'll outline it with my liner brush and I'll choose a color to outline it with so that you can see it. I just don't want to have all that graphite mixed in with some of the light colors that I'm going to be using today, like yellows, because I find that they kind of look muddy after. I don't like that. And a little graphite smudged on my little giraffe's neck there. There we go. Okay, I'll just take another paintbrush just to wipe off the eraser marks here. Done. So now what I'm going to do is, like I said, take my liner brush. I'll get that wet and I'll just pinch it into a fine point. And what I'll do is I'll tell you what colors I'm using as I go, because it's, as you can see, I still have a broken finger. It's in a little splint now, which is nice, but I can move my fingers, I can touch them, which is really cool, but I can't grip anything either. I can't hold anything. So let me see. I will take what's called orange, cadmium orange. And this is just to outline the giraffe. I just want you to be able to see it. In the end, a lot of the times when I do this, I outline it with paint. The paint kind of disappears as I add layers to the canvas. So this is really just to outline it, so you can see. I love this liner brush so much. You can really get a fine tip. It's almost like using an ink pen. It's really cool. Let me get some more water there. This is actually the second time I am painting a giraffe this week. I put a picture of the original painting I did in my community post. What happened was my lighting was terrible. It started off as an overcast day, so I had all my curtains open and my lighting was fine. I double checked my camera and all that stuff, and then the sun decided to come out and everything was overexposed. And I only noticed, I think as halfway through as I was going, maybe even longer. I was almost finished the giraffe, and then I kind of took a quick look into my camera and I'm like, oh my goodness, you can't see anything. And I tried as best as I could to fix it with editing, but it didn't work. So I was like, okay, I'll redo it. I don't mind because I love painting, but I wasn't expecting to do it twice. Because, you know, sometimes these paintings take a couple of hours. And that's a couple of hours finished. A little longer with all the pauses and waiting for things to dry. When you're a YouTube creator, when you're creating content for YouTube, lighting is, in my opinion, the most challenging part. And I have some good lights here, you know, I invested in some good lighting. But if the sun decides to come out and all those shades are open, it doesn't matter what kind of lighting you have. Everything gets washed out. I think I forgot a little spot. Hold on. There we go. I think think I got it. Did I get it? Yes, I did. Okay. So that's the outline of the giraffe. I'll put my liner brush away for now. And I will mostly be using my number 4 round brush. And as I mentioned, I want to stick to a palette, a warm palette. So yellows, oranges, reds. And I might use a little bit of purple. The first one that I did, I used kind of a lightish purple and it was okay. And I'm going to try to stick to what I did already. But if I stray, I stray. So I will be starting with some lemon yellow, and I'm going to put that basically pretty much all over the giraffe. And this is just the first layer. It's the underpainting. You okay, Raven? My dog's scratching away over there. One of my dogs. I have 5. They're all so nice and quiet right now. My cat too, he's in here too. Because it's a bit of a chilly day today, so I put the wood stove on and they love it. I love this lemon yellow. I almost went through the whole thing on the last painting. I used so much of it. I'm not going to put any lemon yellow into her eyes or into her nostrils because... You getting comfortable there, Raven? Because they're going to be dark anyway, so there's no point in putting any paint that color in there. I will be using yellow, but after, at the very end when we do some details. And because my orange is pretty much dry, I'm not, painting over it or blending it in with the yellow. There are some areas where it might blend, but that's perfectly fine. It's interesting doing it a second time because I kind of learned from what I didn't like, what I did the first time, I guess. And I was just thinking now about Bob Ross. Whenever he did the Joy of Painting shows, he practiced. He did one first on his own, and then he did it in front of the camera. And he always had his painting by his side, like right in front of him as a reference. I didn't think to do that. I could get up and go get it. I'd have to walk 10 paces to go get it. But I kind of remember what I did. But clearly this is not a realistic painting. I don't see any yellow giraffes. I'm not going to do this section here. That section is her fur, and I've decided she's a she, so her fur is dark, and that's where I painted it purple last time, or it was kind of a violet red, I suppose. And I might make it darker this time, I'm not sure. I'm going to see how things go. And I might change things around a little bit. If you're curious about what the first one looks like, you can check out my community post from, I don't know, do they do it by date? It's probably the end of April 2025, depending on when you're watching this. There we go. So we've got her all painted in yellow as the underpainting. And the top is pretty much dry. So I'm going to start with, let me see. I'm going to basically go up. Ouch. I'm going to go up as I go, starting by lightest and getting to the darkest. So the next color up is cadmium yellow. I'm not going to lift that palette anymore. I'm sorry, guys. I can't do it. It just hurts too much. So cadmium yellow. Just taking a look. Probably going around her ears here. And I'm going to, at the same time, blend with the outline. But as we go, things are going to get a little darker. So that outline, like I said, it'll probably disappear. But I will put more cadmium yellow just around her whole, the whole head. And there's a little too much there. I'll put it here. If you ever want to remove paint, dip your brush into water, dab it off, and you can pull your paint off like that. Watercolor is quite forgiving in that way, and I like that. So just with a wet paintbrush, I'm just going to go over and mix in the cadmium yellow with that cadmium orange, I suppose is what it was that we used for the outline. I'll just have some droplets of water on my brush. I didn't want them to fall down on my giraffe. I did an elephant a couple of weeks ago. That was fun too. I'm really into the watercolor animals right now. Just a little bit of water to blend in that outline. Smudge it a little, I suppose. Okay, I'm going to continue doing that. Just, let's see, around her head here, just on this area. But I want to stay away from her eyes. Just a little bit of water to soften that up. Now I'm just kind of winging it. Not too sure what I'm doing here, but I'm going around everywhere that I kind of put the outline of yellow, cadmium orange. I want to blend out those lines a little bit, but I want that orange to show. And I think I'll do some more around just around the whole giraffe. Like I said, I'll avoid the area of her eyes for now. I mean, in no way is this a realistic painting, right? But I don't want it to look like a cartoon either. I want it to look like a watercolor painting. Just a little water to soften up the edges here. Now, continuing there with that cadmium yellow. I'm going to go all the way down her neck. And I want to soften up that edge as well, all the way down her neck. My favorite paints are the pan paints. I used to paint with tubes, but I really love these pan paints. They're all I use now when it comes to watercolor. I don't touch the tubes that much anymore unless I run out of a color. If I run out of white, I like white in the tube. I like that one. But most of the other colors, I'm good with the pan paints. I went a little too far there, so just erasing that. Okay, still with that cadmium yellow, trying to decide where else I want to put some, I think maybe, let's see, how about here, this area right here. Under her eye and around her nose here. And I'm going to just use some water to blend so it doesn't look like a big straight line. All right. More cadmium yellow, I think, around this area here, under this eye. Yeah, I like that. And I have some on my brush, so maybe, let's see, I'll just add a little more around the edge here. And I'm gonna blend this in just a little bit with water. Okay, now that is quite wet, and her neck is still quite wet, but her horns are dry, so maybe I'll do something with the horns. Now the next color up for me here on my palette is cadmium yellow, orange yellow. Orange yellow. So I'm going to go around her horns. Just at the top. And I'm going to blend that in with some water. I've got a clean brush and I'm just pulling a little bit off because I didn't want it to completely cover the yellow. I just want it to kind of all blend in together. There we go. Clean brush, just dabbing to get that sort of straight line look away. Okay, and are her ears dry? Yes, it looks like her ears are dry, so I'm going to do the same thing with the orange yellow. And I'm going to go around the edge of her ears. And just at the top of her head here. I have a clean brush with just a little bit of water on it, clean water. Okay, and I'm going to do the same thing on the other side with the orange yellow. And under here. with a little bit of clear water, clean, clear water, blending. Just a little more blending here. My cat is making funny noises. All right, let me see where else is dry. Well, this area is dry, so I can do a little bit there. And again, I'm only using that orange yellow right now. And I'm going to blend that a little bit with some water. Actually, I'll go all the way down. I do want to blend that a little better though. Okay. Now let me take a look here. I still want to be using that orange yellow. And I want it to go maybe under here, just to start creating a shadow, to make an obvious division between her head and her neck. And with some clean water, I'm just going to pull that down just a little bit. Okay, I'm not going to blend on top because that's where I want it to look like a bit of a line, you know, so we can define the difference between her neck and her head. So I'm still in the orange, that yellow orange. And I think I'm going to go back over here. Just with some water, I'm going to blend. Okay, and her neck is pretty much dry. I can't touch the head anymore because she's too wet. So I am going to go in and put some spots on her with that orange yellow. Now I'm going to blend these for sure because we're going to be doing a lot of layers. And they do look like squares, but I don't want them to look too squarish. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see. I want them to look like soft squares. There we go. That's what I want them to look like. So kind of like that, I guess. Not too runny. I'll just do 2 at a time so that I don't, so the paint doesn't have a chance to dry too much. I'm just putting water around the edges to soften it up. And in this case, I don't have to take any paint off because it was fine. So I'll just keep doing that. I love these patterns that these animals have. Just going to separate those two. You gotta keep them separated. It's so amazing, you know, what nature does. So nice. I think I'm going to do a zebra soon. Let me just, there's a little drop of water. I don't want that there. There we go. And zebras are another example of the beauty of, geez, the patterns in nature. Just unbelievable. Okay. I'm going to continue. Got to keep an eye on my camera because I only have so much memory in there. Now that I can film in really high quality, I don't have a big memory card, so I have to stop once in a while and empty the memory card and then continue. So I've got to keep an eye on that because my camera doesn't make a noise when it stops. It just stops and I'm sitting here going da 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 da, and I don't even know that I'm not filming anymore. I always wonder if people follow along with my videos. I'd love to see your stuff. And until now, I didn't know how, but you know what? I have in the community section, you know, the community posts. If you're a subscriber, you can post something there. You can post your paintings so I can see what you've done. So please feel free to do that. I would love to see what you've done and what colors you chose, because you don't have to choose the same colors as I do, you know. I always say that. It's like I have another channel. It's called Rain's Kitchen and Garden, and whenever I do recipe videos, I always say, you know what? You put in as much as you want. You put in as much salt as you want. You don't have to put onions. You know, it's you change the recipe to your taste. And for me, it's the same thing as painting, you know. I think Hitchcock said imitation is the best form of flattery, but it's also good to be creative and do your own thing. I accidentally erased that, so there we go. Okay, well, her face is still a little wet, as is her body, so I'm going to pause for now and let this dry, and then I'm going to continue. I just thought of something while she's drying. Maybe I can do a little bit on the background. So I'm going to wet my big brush, and I'm going to go into that lemon yellow. And I'm just going to put some lemon yellow kind of everywhere. Be careful around her though. And I'll just get some water and I'll blend all of that. I'll add some water around the edges so that it softens it. I am someone when I do a painting, if there's a white spot, like right there, it bugs me too much. I have to fill it. And I'm trying so hard to stop doing that, but it's like almost a compulsion. I have to teach myself different techniques because I want to learn and grow, you know? I don't have to fill in the entire background like I'm doing right now. Because I will put other colors in here as well. If I have to pause to let it dry, I may as well just do the whole background, right? That way the background's dry too. When it comes time to put in other colors, I can do that. Okay, so now I'm going to let this painting dry for a little bit. Oops, there's a piece of white there. The next color that I'm going to use, this is all dry, the next color I'm going to use is cadmium orange. Because I'm working my way up or through the color wheel, I suppose. And this is a little darker, so I'm going to go over, let me get more paint on there, go over here, just around the outside. Oh, that's too much paint, so I'm going to pull some of that off. Because the whole idea is that I want to do layers, you know? I want everything to look really nice and blended well together. And that's why I went to the trouble of painting her all yellow. That's the underpainting, and that's, you know, that's sort of the base. And because these watercolors are so transparent, it helps. You can kind of, everything blends really differently when you have all these layers. I love it. I love adding layers to things. And I'm just going to add it to the top and the inside here. I'm not going to go around the outside of her horns at this point with this cadmium orange. And I'm always basically dipping my brush in to soften up the edges. Okay? Now I'm looking for areas where I want to put some more dark orange in there. So let me see, maybe here. And around here. I don't want any inner eye. I'm going to soften this up too. Just some clean water. Here as well. One of my dogs is snoring already. And I'll put some on the other side of her nostril here. And just with some clean water, I'm going to blend that really well. But I don't want to lose that yellow in the middle, so let me pull some of that paint off. Okay, so more of that cadmium orange. Just at the base of her snout here. Looks like a big smile. I do not want it to look like that, so I'm going to soften that up. I just want her snout to be a little darker in some areas, but I'll be pulling some of that paint off. There we go. I just love how watercolor blends. And I'm going to take some more and go around the edge here of her face. we go. Maybe I'll take a little bit just on the inside of each spot, I guess it's called. Spot, square spot. This is actually quite different from the one that I did the other day. And while this was drying, I actually got up and I pulled it out for you to see, but just let me finish this first and then I'll show you what I did the other day. And I already like this one better. All right. Just going to soften that up with some water. There we go. I will show you. This is what I did the other day. I can't put it too far down. See, I used a lot of purples and I did it her neck differently, and so I'm looking at it, but I'm just thinking I want to maybe stick to, maybe not do any purples in this one. Just stick to the warm palette of yellows, oranges, and reds. And I'll be using some dark colors for her eyes and her nostrils, but I would prefer to kind of stick to these beautiful warm colors at this point. So my next color that I'm going to be using is called Vermilion Red. Let me just check. Well, she's almost pretty much dry. Not completely dry, but I want to do, because Vermilion Red is kind of orangey, you know? I just want to do this. Around her head. I want to make this painting simpler than the one that I did the other day. Because when I looked back at it, I thought, that's a little, it's nice, but it's a little too busy for me, you know? I'm trying to simplify things and try to be a little more loose with my paintings. Oh, I like that. Maybe I'll put a little more red here. Just while everything's wet. I don't think it's possible that you can't hear my dog snoring. They relax when I do my painting videos. Probably because it's so nice and quiet. And I'm talking very softly. Okay. Where else do I want to put this? Vermilion Red. Maybe. Soften that up with water. I used to challenge myself when I was painting to only paint with two colors. And I did a lot of paintings with Prussian blue and turquoise blue. And the different hues that you can get with just 2 colors is unbelievable. And I should probably try to do that too. Use less color rather than tons and tons of color all the time. I don't have a plan at this point. I'm just doing. Now I'll take some clean water and just blot the sides. Again, so it doesn't look like a big straight line going down her head, you know? Oops. There we go. Now when everything's dry, I'm going to have to redo that line that divides her neck and her face. So I'm back into that vermilion red. And I'm just going to go on the outside here. Just around the tip of her ear. I don't mind if it looks like a line on her ear because, you know, it's the inside of her ear is the yellow part and the outside is darker. So I might add some more of that yellow actually here while everything's wet. It's going to blend really nicely. Here too, it's not quite wet, but I can always add water. There we go. I'm really liking this. Okay, let me look at my camera. I might be out of memory here. Yeah, I'm out of memory in about 2 minutes, so let me see if there's anything else I want to do. What I'll do is I'll take some of the vermilion red and just put some around. And I'll take some water and just soften all that up. And then when I empty my memory card, that'll give this a chance to really dry well. Because I'm adding a lot of water here. All right, I'm going to let this dry, and then we'll come back to it. My painting is nice and dry right now, so I'm going to go into a bit of a darker color because I want to put dark along here, which is going to be her fur on the back of her neck. So I might just stick to the vermilion red actually. I'm just going to stick to the vermilion red, and that's going to be my palette. I'm not going to purple it up or anything like that. I'm just going to stick to the reds and yellows and oranges. I said reds plural, but I'm only using this one. I prefer it that way. I decided I want to be a little more simplistic than the one that I did the other day. Because sometimes I feel like, I think I mentioned this before, I feel like I put too much on, you know? And it gets too busy. Now I'm just going to put some water on here. soften things up. On the inside too, I want to soften that up on the inside. I'm just taking some of the paint off for now because I can do layers. Okay, so I've got to tell you, I'm very, very close to being happy with this. But what I'd like to do is do a bit of a yellow wash. Wet brush into my yellow color. And I've got just an empty dish here. I'm going to put some water in there because I want it to be a very, very light wash. I'm going to go over some areas. Just where I had the yellow before, kind of on the areas that I want to keep lighter. I realize my sleeve might be sitting in that red color. It's very possible. I'm running low on this. I'm going to have to put some more in here. Just putting some water in here with a little bit more lemon yellow. Some more water. There we go. I'm just going around the edges of those little spots. I don't want to erase the squareness of them, but I'm just going around the edges with some of that yellow wash. Okay, there we go. I'll put that on the side for now. And what I'm going to do is work on her eyes because I think I'm pretty satisfied with what it looks like. As far as the head goes and her neck, I might want to soften up this line a little bit, but, or maybe, let me just see. I can always take it off if I don't like it. I've got a little bit of the vermilion red here. And I am going to soften it up. And take some of that off. It just sort of becomes a hint of a line rather than just a straight line if I kind of soften it up a little bit. There we go. I like that better than how it was before. I do, however, want to create that jawline, so I'm going back into the vermilion red, and I will try not to, I just noticed a droplet of water here. There we go. I'm going to try not to get my sleeve into her fur over there. Okay. Now just with a little bit of clean water, I'm going to go under that line. A little more water. There we go. Now for her eyelashes, you know what? A little more vermilion red. Just at the tips of her horns here. And I'm going to soften that up with water. Nothing crazy. Maybe the tips of her ears as well. And I'll soften it up with water. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to work on her, excuse me, her eyes and her, I almost said her elbows, her eyes and her nostrils. Where did I get that? Elbows. I guess they don't have, yeah, they have elbows. Okay, so I have hardly any water. I'm going to outline her eye here. I'm just putting a little red there because that's going to make it look like the top of her eyelid. I'll do the same thing on this side. And they have these nice, pretty long lashes. So I've given her eyelashes. I'll do the same thing. Just make it look like she has her eyelid down a little bit. At this point, I'm going to take my liner brush because I want a thin line of the vermilion red over here. There, just a thin line. And I'm making like what looks like maybe eyelashes there. I'm going to let that dry. And then now I'm going to use, because I want to add another layer of the vermilion red after. And I'm going to put some of that vermilion red into her nostrils. And I'll let those dry because, like I said, I want to add more of a layer. And since I've got that on my paintbrush, I'm going to add some. Now I've got my liner brush, and I'm going to pull some of that hair out because they do have fur back there, and this is what it kind of looks like. You see? So I'm going to do that. I'm going to go down a little bit at a time because you want to pull the fur out when the paint is wet. If it dries, then you can't do it. So I think this is dry. Okay, it's dry, so I can put my hand down there. It's much easier if I do it like this. If I put my hand down. Okay, I'm just repeating what I've done. The temptation is to go all the way down, but I don't want, because it's already drying up here, so this will dry quite quickly. Okay. What's going on, Benny? My dog. Every time I say okay, he thinks he's going O-U-T. I don't want to say it. It's starting to dry a little bit down there. There we go. I like that a lot. I really like that a lot. I feel like doing a little bit of vermilion red here too. Just a little bit. You know, just a little hint of it. I don't want to put a straight line. I'm just putting kind of dots, and I'm going to wash those out a little bit. I said wash, I mean dab. Dab, dab, dab them out a little bit. There we go. Yeah, I like that better. Now I want to do something with her mouth too. Her eyes aren't, her nostrils are still wet, but the eyes are a little dry, but I want to do something with her mouth. So I'm going to maybe put just a little of the vermilion red here. Looks like I'm putting lipstick on her. But her mouth area is a little darker, so I want to make sure that that's darker. I have a little bit of that vermilion red on my paintbrush, and I don't want it like that, so I'm going to pull a little off. Because her snout is just a little darker. I'm just going to take some clean water, make sure that blends in. I don't want that line there. And I want to take a little bit of that off in the middle. What I can do actually is take some of the lemon yellow. There we go. It's all wet, so it's gonna blend nicely. I'm gonna take my liner brush. I'm gonna do the same thing here, just the tiniest little bit of vermilion red. Although, hold on, this is kind of, there we go. I want to get rid of that. Okay, just the tiniest little bit of vermilion red on the bottom, and that's it. And as I did here, I'm going to dab, 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 dab. Okay. Now, if I look, her eyes are dry, so I'm going to use my liner brush because I want a small little bit of the lemon yellow. And I'm going to put some lemon yellow into her pupil, or the bottom of her eye here. Just so it's not the color of the canvas. And This went over a little too far for my liking. There we go. And when that dries, I'm going to put a little bit more vermilion red there. So I'm just taking a quick look as things are drying to see if there's anything more that I want to do. And I have to finish her eyes. But I think everything else... Oh wait, I do want to do a little bit of highlighting around her nostril. So I've got the liner brush and some of that lemon yellow. And I want to just do a little highlighting. That's already highlighted there. Just very, very subtle, you know, very subtle. And I'm not happy with that area there. I want it to look maybe a little more blended, maybe, I don't know. I'm going to go into the orange yellow, and I'm just going to put a little bit more orange yellow here on the top of her head, and with water I'll blend that in. And you know what, I think I'm going to leave it. I'm going to pull a little bit off and go into the lemon yellow and put some lemon yellow here. And with some clean water, just want to make sure everything's going to blend nicely. Okay, now are her eyes? Her eyes are still a little wet. So what I'm going to do is, let's see. No, I think her eyes are dry. So I've got my liner brush, and if her eyes are still wet, then I'll fix it. But I'm going to go into the vermilion red again. And I'm just going to put just a little couple of dots to make it look like her pupil. You see what I'm doing? Just a few dots to make it look like her pupil. There we go. And I'm going to do a little bit of shadow under here. I'm going to wipe that down, not wipe that down, blend that in with some water. It's all very subtle at this point. There we go. So I'm going to let that dry, and then I'm going to cover her up and do a little bit of splatter. My painting is dry, so I'm going to take that paper towel dealy thing that I kind of made up this morning, and I'm going to cover my little giraffe here. Okay, and I've got just the tiniest little bit of water in my bowl, so I'm going to put some of the vermilion red into there because I'm going to do some splatter with the vermilion red. It's kind of orangey when you look at it. There may have been some yellow in that bowl, so, but that's okay. So this is how I'll do splatter, is I dip, 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 tap twice, and just tap on my paintbrush. Tap, tap. There we go. And I'd like to do a second color. No, I'm not going to do a second color. I mentioned before I have trouble. Sometimes I overdo things. Well, you know what? I'm going to stop myself now. And I'll pull this off. And I think that's good. I think that looks really, really nice. All right, my painting is dry, my friends. I'm very, very happy with it. I'm glad I didn't go overboard with like a ton of colors and a ton of splatter. I'm trying to be more minimalist when I'm doing my paintings. So I'm just going to pull off my masking tape so I can see that beautiful frame. I love it. Wonderful. Oh, I really like it. So that's my watercolor giraffe, my friends. I hope that you enjoyed the painting if you followed along. And I hope you enjoyed the minimalism. Like I said, this one, the one that I did the other day, well, I showed you the picture already. There is a lot going on in that painting, and I kind of like the way this one looks better. Thank you so much for watching today, my friends. And if you followed along, if you painted a giraffe of your own, you can go into the section, I believe it's either called community posts or just posts now. And I think that you can post a picture of your own in my community section. I've set it up that way and I hope it works. So please show me what you've painted. I'd love to see it. And if you'd like to like and subscribe, I would really appreciate that. Hit the notification bell if you don't want to miss out on future videos. And please share this with anyone you might think will enjoy it. And leave me a comment. I love your comments and I reply to all of them. Thanks again for watching, my friends, and we'll see you next time on Rain Francis Art. Bye.